Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nick Kroll Show. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I got Josh back here. We got part 3 of our financial freedom series. This is probably going to be the last part of this. If there is another one, we'll let you know at the end. But this time, we're going to talk about what you do now that you're debt-free, where you go from there, what do you do now you get all this extra, pretty much extra money that you can just do whatever the hell you want with it. So how do you build wealth with that? So Josh really excels here, and I've learned a lot from him in this. So definitely going to be an educational episode for you. Take it away. Where do you start with this conversation? You can start from anywhere.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite topic. It's the most exciting. This is the part where you get rich. This is the part where you buy all the things you wanted after you've paid off the house, after you've put away your nest egg. This is where it gets really fun. Now, some people do this sooner than others through the form of entrepreneurship, which is, what you see on TV. It's how you see business people driving around in Lamborghinis. And, the reality is, you don't need to be an entrepreneur or make all that money overnight. I think something that I say a lot and something that, you should understand is to invest early and invest often. Time is your friend. You don't want to miss a year between the ages of 18 and 19. That 1 year could cost you $1 million, potentially more, in earnings, at the end of your career. There's a few different vehicles to do this. And when I say vehicles, I mean, strategies, approaches, ways to get this done, I think. But you can't, these don't take place of, financial discipline. They're more of a topper.
Right. There's still plenty in all discipline in investing and knowing what your investments are going to. You have to pay attention unless you pay somebody to pay attention for you.
Right.
But there's still a lot of discipline into, hey, because you have this money, right? And you can blow it on dumb shit if you want to blow it on dumb shit, or you can make your money work for you. So
right.
When you talk about investing, though, like people hear investing and they think stock market. Like, I don't know how to do the stock market. And
right.
It's just another one of those things where if you just sit down for a couple days and you do a few Google searches, watch a few YouTube videos, you can learn enough to get started. Just start with $100 in there just to learn what you're doing. That's what I did. I put $100 in a couple different things, saw what it did, didn't really know what the hell I was doing. And now I kind of understand it. I don't think anybody fully understands the stock market. Sure somebody does, but there's a lot to it. There's so many different moving parts, and if you just take some time and you watch a few videos, you're gonna understand small amounts of it. But then when you start doing it, that's where you start learning and you start seeing patterns and you start, okay, hey, this stock just hit a high. Now it's probably going to dip back down. Oh, they just got funding. That means it's probably going to shoot back up. You start seeing and you're able to track all these things, and that's where you can really start making some money. And the investment accounts that you can make, that you can get into too, are just ridiculous. We were talking a little bit earlier about, we'll start with the Roth IRA just because that's what's fresh in our minds here. The Roth IRA is a beautiful, beautiful tool that I learned a lot about this morning. I wish we were recording for that.
Yeah. A Roth IRA is a really, really powerful tool, and I think the vast majority of income earners are going to fall under the umbrella of someone who can qualify for a Roth IRA. This isn't supposed to be, at least in my opinion, your only form of investment, but you should be doing it. The max contribution limit for a Roth IRA is about $6,000 per year. It has gone up recently. It'll probably continue to go up. Same was going to go for any other investment vehicle. Basically, there is a Roth IRA is an investment account. You don't need to get too deep into investing and what it takes to invest to utilize the benefits of the account. A Roth IRA allows you to make after-tax contributions. So basically what that means, I do it every week, $25 a week. And at the end of the year, if I need a tax deduction, I can just deposit some into a traditional. But for a Roth, I've already been paid. It's gone into my checking account. I'm contributing to this account with my taxed income. The benefit of this is that you always have access to your contributions, but not the earnings. You can take the earnings out once you reach retirement age tax-free. That's not the same as a traditional IRA in which you contribute with pre-tax dollars. So let's say you make $1,000 a month, let's just say, to make easy numbers, $1,000 a month, and you want to contribute 10% of your paycheck to your traditional IRA. So you're going to deposit $100 a month gross. So every single week you'll have $1,000. $100 is going to go to your traditional IRA, and then you're taxed on $900. It's different because of Roth. You're going to be taxed on the whole $1,000. You're going to get your paycheck just like normal, but the earnings in the Roth, you take out tax-free. Huge benefit. Traditional, tax-deferred. Roth, tax-free when you withdraw. So traditional IRAs, 401ks, very similar. You can get a bigger pony quicker, but you pay taxes at your marginal income tax bracket when you take it out. Roth IRA is basically, it's not basically, it is. It's tax-free growth.
Which is an enormous benefit. I mean, when you look at the history of the stock market, I mean, a tax-free deduction is, incredible. I mean, the amount of money, we were doing it earlier on a calculator. I don't know if you're pulling up a calculator right now, but I think you should, because when you start hearing some of these numbers, and it's just crazy because it's so real. Like, it's just so realistic. But the problem is people don't know this shit. Like, they don't teach this shit in schools. They don't teach this shit anyway. Like, you have to go search for this information, which is good. I mean, excuse me, which is good because you should be hungry for it. You should want to learn it. But I just think that, like, if someone was talking about this, like if someone was listening to this show, they'd be like, after hearing the numbers that we're about to spit out, and these are not made up numbers. Right. These are based on what the market has previously done. Yeah. And go ahead. You got your calculator.
Yeah. So it's reasonable to predict that the, S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Dow are going to continue to, perform at a certain level. They're not always going to be the best indexes, but they're typical. So let's just take an example, a really, really obtainable example of someone and how you can become a millionaire simply. So, let's say you're our age right now, you're 23, and you're going to invest until you plan to retire at 59, which is when you can start taking some of this money out without a penalty. Side note, if you take the earnings out early, you typically pay a 10% penalty on the earnings on top of your marginal income tax rate, which is why Dave Ramsey never recommends cashing out your retirement, because you're borrowing money at a higher interest than you've ever borrowed. You don't want to steal from yourself. So let's say you have zero saved. I'm starting from a goose egg right now. And I'm going to be conservative here and say that the S&P, I'm invested in the S&P 500 companies, probably large companies, Apple, Google, Netflixes of the world.
The 500 top performing companies.
Yeah, exactly. The 500, name brand companies. Typically, that returns about 12%. It has done so the last 10 years on average. So let's say you invest $200 a month from 23 to 59, and your annual return is 12%. You invested $86,400, which, remember, if this is in a Roth IRA, you have access to those contributions. I wouldn't recommend taking them out, but you have access. You're gonna earn $1,365,000 in interest. When you take that out, that's tax free. You don't have to pay on that growth. And where it gets crazy is, I think 12 is honestly pretty conservative. If you're young, you really should be a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I've been aggressive through this pandemic. When the market dipped in March, I think we were both pretty involved back in March. I wish I had a lot more because, I mean, if I made all the decisions I told myself I should have made, probably be a homeowner right now, in cash. I mean, there's a million times I should have done things, but I didn't deviate from my budget. I didn't deviate from my goals to take risks that really aren't calculated. That you can't calculate the market. You can't predict the market.
Nobody can.
You can just participate. And historically, if you participate, you succeed. But if you bump, let's just say, this year, my Roth IRA, I think my personal IRA, which is made up of about 5 to 6 mutual funds, and we can go into that at another point in time, I think performed so far, it was like 31% year to date from January the whole year. So that's crazy. But I'm in a high risk portfolio. That dip in March, it came out of that like crazy. So I invested a lot of money when it was down low. That's kind of your cliche, buy the dip. Wouldn't always recommend that, but I just did. But I had the money at the time. But let's say you bump it up just to 15% on average annually. That gives you an extra $2 million at retirement without contributing anything.
And all you did to get that, what's the grand total over there?
$3,409,000.
All you did to get 3.4 million was save $200 a month. Invest $200 a month. So and that's not even your max. So $6,000 a year is your max, which equals $500 a month. So if you put $500 a month in that shit,
it would be $8.5 million.
Oh.
Yeah.
For what? $500 a month, and what are your contributions with that? To
monthly?
No. Like how much over that course of time?
$216,000.
$216,000, and you turned it into 8 point.
Here's the best and worst argument I get for this. Well, I don't want to wait till I'm 59 to get my money. I want it now. Okay, if you didn't invest this $216,000, you wouldn't have an $8 million nest egg sitting for you when you turn 59. I mean, your 59th birthday is gonna be a fucking party. You know what I mean? You're gonna be balling out. And I think what's crazier, something that they say in the investment world is once you make your first million, it's really your choice from there. I'm going to pull my calculator out, and let's be more conservative. Let's say we're not getting $8.5 million. It's really obtainable. I've shown you it's obtainable. But, let's just say it's $4 million. And, you can get $4 million really pretty easily. I mean, if I knock that back down to 12% and we contribute, $300 a month, we can get to about the $4 million mark. So let's take $4 million, and remember, our account has been returning 12% annually. We can predict that it's going to do about the same, sometimes better, sometimes worse. So you take $4 million, multiply that by 12%, you can live on $480,000 a year, and you can never touch the principal.
I'd say that's pretty livable.
I would say you might be able to make it through on that, and it's what's crazy is pennies make dollars. So in that circumstance, all I had to do was invest $173,000, to earn the other $3 million or so. It's just knowledge, and everyone will do it. Now, how do you? The next question is how do you do it? When do you do it? And how are you? How can you be careful? Personally, I have 4 different investing strategies. I have my traditional IRA. I have my Roth IRA, which is my favorite. I have an individual brokerage account, which is where I just, play around,
Individual brokerages are, that's what I'm into the most right now just because I'm young. It's you put your money in, it grows or it loses. I mean, you do lose sometimes. You're investing in individual companies, right? Like JetBlue, whatever you choose to invest in, you put it into those companies. And if the company does well, you make more money. If the company sucks and they lose money, you lose money, and you take it in and out as you please, but you pay tax on the earnings.
Right. So like if you hit it really big on say Tesla this year, and you don't hold that stock for any longer than a year or shorter than a year, that's going to be a short-term capital gain. You're going to be paying a lot of taxes on that, in the current year. Now, there's a difference, though. There's realized and unrealized gains. If you don't actually, realize those gains, meaning cash them out and take them out, you're not going to pay taxes on them yet. But whenever you decide to cash those out, you're paying full boat tax on every nickel that you made right away and in that year.
So what would be the benefit to like doing a Roth now compared to just doing mutual funds now? Because, I mean, for me, like, I don't want to wait till I'm 59. Like, I'm going to do the Roth. I'm going to do that stuff. I'm going to do my best to max it out every year until I'm 59. But I mean, that kind of sucks because you're losing your $6,000 a year. But like he said, you wouldn't have $8 million when you're 59 if you didn't do that. Right. So you can invest more than $6,000 a year by doing mutual funds, which typically return pretty well. Typically.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: mutual funds are nothing more but an assemble, a group of stocks, and I think that this is where it gets really hard to explain things, because this is what I learned, back at my time, working as kind of in the investment field. In a Roth IRA, in a traditional IRA, in a simple IRA, in a 401k, in any kind of investment product, the difference is typically tax reasons or accessibility. It's not necessarily what you can invest in. Like, I could have a mutual fund in my individual brokerage. I could have that same exact mutual fund in my traditional, and I could have that same exact mutual fund in my Roth. As an example, I personally use TD Ameritrade. That's where all of my investments are, with the exception of my 401k, which is with Edward Jones. But, I have TD Ameritrade manage my traditional, and I have them manage my my Roth. They're better at investing than I am. That's just the truth. I'll get an email in the morning that says I made a trade. That's fantastic. But I have a couple funds that, grew 39% this year. So, when you have $1 million in there, someday, that 39% is $390,000 in capital appreciation. If I have that, you can buy 1,000 shares of JetBlue across all investment vehicles. The only difference is the taxes. It's when can you get it? What do you got to pay? But here's the kind of the asterisk next to a Roth IRA. If you're making $300,000-$400,000 a year, you can't participate in a Roth IRA. A Roth IRA has contribution limits. The contribution limits for, I think, an individual is about $130,000. So if you make more than $130,000 in a taxable year, you won't be able to contribute to a Roth IRA anymore. Because basically what they're saying is the federal government is saying you make enough money, you don't need this benefit. You can figure it out in the market. You can pay your taxes. A Roth IRA is a carrot, that really, with a combination of the federal government, they're really saying they're encouraging you to save. They're encouraging you, to invest and to save. And if you're married, I think it's like $200,000 household, and then you can't contribute into a Roth. So big differences between them all: accessibility, taxes, not necessarily the investments that you can put inside them. That's going to go into a different conversation.
Which is really interesting, too, because, I just learned this recently. I literally opened a Roth probably 4 hours ago. I started doing this. And like I said, I'm more into the individual stuff right now. But after Josh and I talked this morning, I was like, all right, I'm gonna open one of these things up and start going on this. And I had no idea what to do, because I thought you opened a Roth, you put money in there, and it starts growing. But no, so he said he has TD Ameritrade manage those for him. I'm not going to have that done just yet, just because I want to play around with it. I want to know what I'm doing, because I always think it's fun to learn how to do it before you have someone else do it for you. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there and play around a little bit. But what you're doing in a Roth is you're still buying the individual accounts. So like when I said JetBlue earlier, like you would still own JetBlue in your Roth. You just wouldn't be taxed on the earnings when you take it out at 59. The catch to that, though, if you keep JetBlue to your 59, maybe JetBlue is not a company anymore, but you can trade around in your Roth. So you can buy and sell JetBlue as many times as you want and buy something else, or oil stock, or whatever you want to buy. You can buy that shit in there, but you just can't take out your interest earnings. So if you put $500 in and your $500 earns, we'll say $1,000 on interest,
right?
Okay, you can take that $500 out, but you can't take that $1,000 out.
There's going to be a pretty clear line drawn in every account statement of what your contributions are and what your growth is. Could be negative. You could have lost money. You can lose your contributions, but that's totally possible. You can invest $100,000, you can lose it all. Anytime you're investing in the market, you can lose it all.
It's a risk.
It's a risk, but they're calculated to a point. Mutual funds mitigate that risk by potentially being involved. Let's just say you're in the S&P 500. To say that you're going to lose all of your money is to say that Coca-Cola, Apple, and Google and Ford and GM are all going under at the exact same time down to zero. You're wrong.
Chances it's just not likely.
You're wrong, and you're a pessimist, and you're not being factual. And it's never happened, never before. Can the market lose a significant portion of its value? It absolutely can. It absolutely did.
Saw it this March.
It dove very low. But that was a time where, I know he and we bought into oil stocks that we're still behind on. But they're coming up. They're on their way back. There's so much more into it. And I don't consider myself a subject matter expert necessarily on investing, although I do know a lot. I could manage it myself. I just believe that, these people can monitor it 24/7 literally for you. They're constantly doing research.
It's their job.
Yeah, they're very smart. They know what they're doing, and they get paid by how well you do. So, the fee that you pay, well worth it, because that's how they get paid. They want you to make more so they can make more. They participate in your wins and your losses. And in the individual brokerage, that's where I do have some mutual funds in there, but it's mostly stocks. Honestly, it's a hobby. It's waking up in the morning.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, we talk about it together every day. I'll send a text like market's green, market's red. We have a lot of the same stocks just so we can keep that communication. It's fun, I mean, it's money that you need to be okay with losing,
Correct.
Essentially, because it's I don't want to say play around money, but like I was saying earlier, when we do our budget, like it's fun money that's being allocated for investing. Because typically you're not losing all that unless you start getting into like the penny stocks and trying that stuff. But if you are investing in bigger companies, Tesla's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
Apple's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Right.
Don't take my word for it, but you can make a pretty good assumption that those companies aren't going under in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't have all of our eggs in one basket either. I mean, we have a couple of other things, and honestly, it's just getting to the point now, like where my individual brokerage account is, significant. I can not, significant to a point. Like if you just have $100 in there, it's not that fun. It's like, oh well, I lost $50. Like it's when honestly, losing makes it kind of fun. You know what I mean? It's like, but you have to be okay with that. Like you have to know before you invest that you could lose it all. You're probably not gonna. I mean, I lost my ass back in March and April. So did everybody else. People who pulled out screwed themselves. People who stayed in, I know people who have, gotten money above their wildest dreams investing into certain companies. Like people who got into Zoom, loaded.
Even Tesla was $3.20 a share back in March, I believe.
DocuSign, loaded.
Yeah.
I mean, people. I'm like these stocks have gone insane. I mean, I don't even know exactly how high, but basically, we're not sitting here saying,
Yeah, don't take my investing advice.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm playing around with it. But definitely look into investing and learn it on your own. Like, you should honestly never take advice from anybody. You should be comfortable and know what you're doing. Like, even if you're hiring people to do it for you, I believe you should still have an understanding.
You
of what's
definitely
happening.
should. And if you have any good advisor, any good advisor is going to make sure that you understand what you're in. Like it's part of the job as I used to be one. You could not make suggestions to a client unless you believe that they understood what they were going in. Like, there was a certain, you do kind of it's called a KYC, know your customer questionnaire, and you get to know the client, you get to know their risk tolerance, you get to understand their timeline, you ask them questions. Certain investment houses have certain access to certain risky shit. Edward Jones, that's my 401k. You can't do speculative stuff with them. They don't have it. They don't do that kind of stuff, period, end of story. TD Ameritrade and Fidelity, listen, if you want to take your life savings, sell your house, and dump it into a speculative penny stock, more power to you. I mean,
it could pay off, or you could lose your entire life savings.
But
that's how the stock market goes.
But only if you have an advisor, they will only make that trade for you because they will tell you, listen, this is a bad idea, and they will write it down. I mean, I've seen trades before that have come to me that have been like, this is a bad idea. But here you go. You kind of qualify. So I know with TD, when I did my introduction call, they asked if I've ever been licensed before, if I was affiliated with a broker dealer, and that right away set me to basically okay, go nuts. You can do whatever you want. But so I haven't made many of those trades, but sometimes they'll send you an email that just says it was probably just a bad move. I'm just letting you know it was a bad move. Here's it on record. It was a bad move, but. Anyways, yeah, it's gone. It's been a crazy year in the market, but it's been a good one to participate in if you can capitalize on it.
And there's also more than just stock market investing too. Like there's so many different types of investing, right? Like, I mean, opening a business is an investment. If you can make money on that investment, it's probably a little bit harder, probably takes a little bit longer. I mean, depends on your definition of hard, right? Like.
Right.
Is investing in the market hard? Like, no, not really. Is opening a business hard? I mean, probably a little bit more work than the market, but opening a business is just a matter of steps, and you just take these steps one at a time, and then you're there. I know plenty of people that have started their own businesses. It's not impossible. No. Another market is the real estate market, something that's, proven to just go up time and time again.
Yeah.
Pretty much all markets have gone up in history.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an exact figure, but I think I read something that said over the last 60 years, which included 3 recessions, the stock market has averaged at least, it was 9% or something, including the stock market crash of '08 and then a couple before I was even born. Like even with those losses where, so many companies went bankrupt. Even money market funds almost lost their ass. Which is crazy because money market funds are basically savings accounts. They're not basically savings accounts, but for all intents and purposes, they're savings accounts. And even some of those went shaky. That didn't even happen in March of this year when the pandemic hit. So, inflation is about 3% a year. So even if you just stick it out over time, you're destined to win. Same thing goes with real estate. It's the only investment in the history of time that's really never lost value. He who has the most land,
One of my biggest, I guess not regrets, but one of the things I would have changed was what we did with the money that we were saving for our house, because we ended up saving up a lot of money. We put 20% down on a decent house, so we had a lot of money in a savings account. And if we would have just done something with that, there's a chance, right? There's a chance that it could have gone wrong. Would have been kind of unlikely. We also did buy when the market was shaky, which we wouldn't have known 4 or 5 years before when we started saving all this money. But having it in a savings account was just terrible. I was watching the interest come in and it'd be like 20 cents. I was like,
Right.
I would rather not even get the interest. You know what I mean? Like the interest rates on a savings account are just piss poor. Your savings account, in my opinion, and Dave Ramsey's opinion, and Josh's opinion, should have 3 to 6 months of expenses in it.
Yeah.
After that, there's
Put it
no
to work.
need. Yeah. Let your money make money for you.
Yeah. To put it into perspective, he and I have been investing in a company called Workhorse back and forth. And, back in June, April, May, June, Workhorse was trading for about $2.65 a share. I think I bought in originally at like 19 a share, and I think it peaked at 28 a share. Obviously, had I known, I would have put everything I had into Workhorse back in June, and I'd have been a happy guy,
Would have made a lot of money on that.
But that's the market. You can't time it, and you can't expect to.
Yeah, there's plenty of companies that would do the same thing. They'd be $2-3 a share, and then all of a sudden they're bankrupt.
Yeah.
Look at GNC just went bankrupt. You never know. You just never know what's going to happen in the market. But most of the time, a lot of people have made a lot of money. That I do know. A lot of people have made a lot of money in the market, and even real estate too. Like that's another great form of investing because it's something that you're going to have. It's typically not losing value. I think real estate's a little bit safer than the stock market. it's kind of opinionated there, but
yeah, I think it is because real estate produces income and appreciation.
Yeah, if you're renting.
Yeah. Typically if you're buying real estate, you're probably not keeping it all for yourself. You're not going to go buy 150 units for yourself. You're going to be making money on these properties, and sometimes you're buying them to flip. But real estate appreciates. Real estate produces income. Real estate, you can produce a tremendous amount of write-offs for taxable income for the year. There is in real estate can diversify you. So if you get to the point in which you have, I would say, too much money, I would recommend going into real estate because you can't, and I'm going to get into it myself hopefully sooner than later. Like my strategy isn't to put every nickel I have into the market and then one day just amass this massive fortune when I turn 59 and just all of a sudden not know what to do with it all. I want to create a kind of a career out of it, I guess. I think real estate, for me, wants to become a career, so I'll be investing in myself. Hopefully.
There's plenty of ways to make money from now to 59, right? Like you don't have to wait to 59 to have money.
Right.
Probably not going to have $8 million before then. But just like working out, like it takes time.
Yep.
Just like everything you do, it takes time. You have to stay consistent and continue to contribute to your Roth, continue to contribute to your stocks, all this stuff. And eventually you get there and you like kind of look back and like, wow, I remember starting from here and now I'm here. Like it's the same thing with anything.
A big thing about investing and becoming, wealthy, which is ideally the step in everyone's journey after becoming debt free, which almost seems impossible, but I can assure you that it's not. I've shown you that, you have $200 a month that you can save. You do. Some of you might not right now, but there will be a point in your life that you do. And as soon as you do, you need to start paying yourself first and saving for the future because, you want to change your family tree. Unfortunately, the data shows that, you're kind of a product of your environment. I know that you and I, as an example, aren't, but we were able to kind of get out of it early and start asking questions. Like we don't take everything we say even now, and we respect each other's opinions, and we want some proof. You know, we want to see the proof in the pudding. We don't just take what we're told and just run with it. You know, we want answers. I ask why so much, and, you know, it's made me a lot of enemies, but it's also done a lot of good things for me. I mean, I want to know why. I don't just take what people say and tell me. I want to make my own opinion.
Yeah, I don't know how curiosity ever killed the cat. I feel like that cat would be pretty smart.
Pretty smart cat. Pretty rich cat.
Yeah, pretty rich cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's also other things, too. Like what Dave Ramsey would say after you're out of debt is he would say, fund your kid's college fund. And start saving for a house and do those kind of things. And absolutely, like, do that stuff first. You know, like, that stuff's important, and it's going to – I mean, you're not going to take a hit in the long run, you know. Right. Saving for a house, he recommends you do a 15-year fixed with 20% down at least, and you can your payment is less than 25%.
25% of your take-home pay.
Yeah, of your take-home pay. That's all great, but if you have a plan, you know, like – my wife and I, we didn't do that. Like, we stayed pretty close to that, but we were like, hey, we're going to dump everything we have into this mortgage, and it's not going to be a 15-year. We did like a 20, but we're planning to pay it off so soon that it didn't really matter what we were picking.
I think what's interesting of this conversation in regards to wealth and retirement is we haven't once mentioned Social Security, because it's not in our minds. Like, we don't have a mind.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Like Social Security check, Social Security income when you reach the age of 67, 65 and a half. Like, we're not anticipating that the government is going to retire me.
I honestly don't even know what you mean right now.
See,
I don't know what Social Security is.
That is
like,
how
I've heard of it, but I thought that was like like welfare, quote welfare, right?
No, see, that is live. I mean, he has no clue what the hell is going on. No clue. And you know, so
explain it. Now I'm curious.
When you reach full retirement age has changed. The government sets what full retirement age is. So retirement age for some investment products is 59. Retirement age for the federal government, I think for you and I, is about 67 and a half. For my father, it's probably like 63. But they keep raising it because life expectancies keep getting longer. So you know how every time, you don't know actually because you work for the government, so you don't pay it. But I pay, and my employer pay every time he pays me a certain percentage to Social Security. So do most other people.
I'm pretty sure I pay that.
So maybe you do. Yeah, maybe you do, still working in the government. So you're paying in to potentially your, quote, retirement, which to me is just a government dependency program. You know, there's a certain calculation. You get a certain amount of money per month after you retire at full retirement age. Honestly, it's a bunch of government-dependent bullshit. People are going to hate that opinion. They're going to hate it. They're going to say, that's not realistic. And it just is. I mean, I'm not banking on the government retiring me. So when you reach the age of 67 and a half, just boom, here, you're going to get
They send you a check every week.
Every month. You're going to get, you're going to get $1,300, $2,000, $2,200 a month, whatever it is. Once you reach probably when you and I reach 67, it'll be over $2,000 a month because of, inflation and all that shit. But the government loves misappropriating that money. They like taking money that's intended for people and spending it on dumb shit like other countries and stuff.
So I actually know something about this. I looked up what the fuck America's debt was. And a big portion of that debt, fact check me here while you're typing there, check this, but a big portion of that debt was Social Security. I thought Social Security was like people's pensions, like people that worked in the government and all that, like what they're getting paid for the rest of their life.
Right, because we owe it to ourselves. That's what's the problem is the government has robbed the people of their money to use it for other shit, and they said, oh, don't worry, we'll pay you back. And they don't. That's what they do. I mean, it is such a shit show up there. Like, you can't depend on Social Security. You can't depend on anybody but yourself. Like, if you're sitting here thinking, 5 more years to retirement, or if you're in your 50s and you're listening to this and you're going, 8 more years to retirement, and you have $0.00 and a negative net worth of $250,000, and you're waiting for that $1,400 a month, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you didn't make it, and you can't stop working. You got to keep working. I guess you're gonna work till you die.
I did not know that the government just paid you a check for the rest till you die. I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, even better, they pay it to people who, it's basically welfare. They don't do anything and they get it. And there's I don't want to, that could go down a bad path.
If the government was a business, they'd be fucking bankrupt. They'd be destroyed. They are bankrupt. I mean, they're trillions of dollars. They're just destroyed.
I mean, they're the reason the student loan crisis is crazy. They're the reason healthcare is a mess. I mean, anytime they get their mitts in on anything, it gets fucked up. I mean, every system.
What a disaster!
Absolute,
what a disaster!
Absolute shit show. So they're borrowing. They're taking your money and they're misappropriating. They're doing the wrong things with it. So I am not banking on that, but I can tell you, I know people do bank on that, and it's sad. I mean, if the Social Security check of $2,000 is anything but a rounding error when I'm 67, I'll be pissed off. That's my philosophy. People will laugh at that. Oh yeah, you're gonna be that. You're not gonna get that wealthy. Watch.
I'm gonna change the subject here because I can't talk about the government any longer. They're just so broken. But you said something earlier about people that say, "Oh, I got 5 more years to retirement. Oh, I got this many years more to retirement." Like people, especially that get pensions. I have a lot of respect for police, but I'm gonna call them out on this one. I hear it all the time with like cops. They're always like, "Oh, I got 8 more years." People in the military, "Oh, I got 6 more years." Again, ton of respect for those people. However, stop saying I got 8 more years. Like, live your life, be happy. And what we're talking about in this, all 3 parts of this, is so you can do what you want to do. So you don't have to be dependent on somebody else. You don't have debt. You don't need to be there. I had this guy. I met this guy. He was in the Coast Guard. He had 12 years in, and he said, "I'm done," and he got out. And I was like, that is fucking sick. Like, I had so much respect for that guy because he was one of so few people in that kind of an industry that 20 years you get a pension that was like, "Oh, I only got 8 years left." He was like, "No, man, this ain't worth it." And I was like, "What did you do?" He was like, "I've just been like not a moron, basically." Like, that's the problem here. Like, people think you got to be smart to do this shit. You don't. Like, I, honest to God, do not consider myself smart. I just don't think I'm a moron.
Monkey make money, monkey save money.
Yeah, and like Elon Musk, I think is a smart guy. Jeff Bezos, I think is a smart guy. You know what I mean? Like, I am not a smart guy. I'm just not a moron.
Yeah.
And like, people are just so dumb with money, and it's part of it is like not being taught, right? Like, the school system's broken in that aspect. A lot of the inner city school systems are very broken in that aspect.
Right.
And they teach you maybe how to write a check.
I don't think they even do that, really.
I think they taught me how to write a check.
They don't anymore. I know
Really?
I was taught, but they don't teach kids anymore. No, they don't teach kids cursive or anything like that, which is just
Wow.
crazy. I mean, we're only a few years separated. I think they stopped doing that like shortly after us. But I mean, it's so true. Like, when my story is told and I lay down, and I'm dying, I want someone to say, "How did he do it?" I mean, it's gonna blow your mind how simple it was.
Yeah, I think Warren Buffett, I forget, I don't want to fuck up the quote. I'm a big quote guy, but I think somebody asked Warren Buffett, like, why doesn't everybody do your investment strategy? It's so simple. And basically all he said he did was invest 10% of his income. And his response was because nobody wants to get rich slow.
Yeah,
But
the best way to get rich quick is to get rich slow.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. I mean, you're not just gonna invest in a stock and sit here and watch it and shake your hands and then one day you're a millionaire. I mean, it's gonna take years. I mean, even for a really high income earner, I mean, it's gonna take. I mean, and when I consider a high income earner, I consider like a household income of over 100,000. I mean, it's gonna take 10 years. I mean, to really get to that point, depending on who you are, depending on what your expenses are, what are you looking for? But it takes time. I mean, it really takes time, and you have to be patient, and you have to just keep working through it.
Yeah, and everybody has different goals. Everybody has different things that they want to do. But at the end of the day, do what's best for you and make sure you know what you're doing. Don't try and complicate things. Don't try and look for the best get-rich-quick way, because just like the lose weight fast, it doesn't work. It doesn't exist. Stop looking for that this bullshit. I mean, that's people want these like simple, like, oh, how do I do it right now? It doesn't happen like that. That's nothing good happens overnight. It takes time, but you have to consistently put in work, and you have to work hard for these things. And I say work hard, like when it comes to investing, I mean, you just hit a couple buttons on your smartphone. You know what I mean? Like money is all electronic. It electronically deposits, and then you electronically switch it to your investment portfolio. Then you electronically invest it into something else. Like, it's all on your phone. Like, it's not even. I don't even understand why people just don't all do it.
The best way to invest is to not see the money in your account in the first place. So if you can figure out a way to just get it automatically withdrawn, or like say with your paycheck. You can easily enough just put 10% of your paycheck into a savings account and 90% of it into your checking, and just don't check that bank account every day. I mean, there's just so many ways to do this, but there's no way that's quick. I mean, unless there's ways that are quicker than others. Like if you have a great idea and you can capitalize on that and you can make a quick couple million, good for you. But even then, I mean, how many people have you seen become millionaires and then be broke? I guarantee
so many football players, so many NBA,
actors,
hockey. I mean,
artists.
it's crazy. It's crazy because it's not about how much you make. It's about how much you spend.
Yeah, I mean, I say this all the time. I would, if there was a way to track this, pick a random person who makes 2x what I make. Let's just say the data 2x what I make annually for the next 30 years. There's a good chance I'll be wealthier than them when I'm even 30.
Just because of this information. Just because, and like. everybody has access to this information too.
Right.
It's not like we didn't invent this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Josh and I weren't sitting here a couple hours ago saying, "All right, hey, what's this next great idea?" Like this has been around for I was gonna say centuries, probably decades though. It's been around for, and it's not new information. It's been done. It's been done numerous times, and anybody can do it. You just have to start.
It's just so unfortunate you're not taught this stuff. It really is. I mean, you learn about mortgages and credit scores and buying new cars and instant gratification. And honestly, the sad part is most of the adults in your lives are more like children. You know, the bar, and I say this all the time, the bar to be an adult human being right now is so low. I mean, you can act like a complete jackass. And I'm not talking political opinions. I'm not talking about any of the shit that happened this year. I mean, you're just a general jackass, and you see people like this all the time. People that, I mean, I don't even understand. I don't even know how some people wake up in the morning. I mean, they put clothes in their back, because I meet these people and they're so oblivious, and it almost makes me angry, but it's really not their fault.
It's sad.
They're so
sad.
Fucking clueless. I mean, Roth what? You know, invest in what? You know, people, they don't even know there's another option for retirement besides Social Security. I mean, you don't know what it is. You've never had that mindset. Some people have been on Social Security since they turned 18. And I know, because I'm in the business. I mean, I see this all the time when people are applying for financing. I mean, they literally, I'm like, what do you do for employment? I don't. What?
Why are you at a car dealership?
Do you have a cosigner? Yeah, but they're on disability too, or they're on Social Security too. Oh.
And sometimes, rarely, I would say.
Everyone relax, yeah.
Yeah, rarely.
Relax.
It's something significant happened where they needed that. It was a good program in place to help them. But people, you shouldn't be dependent on the government. I mean, just ever. Look at how broken the government is. You want those people to save your ass.
No problem. Yeah,
Come on.
That goes for any administration. I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
All set.
I'm just such a believer in taking control of your own life. And I mean, you are. It's not even taking control. It's just being in control. You are in control of your own life.
Yep.
It's not up to the government what you're going to do. It's not up to your mother and father. It's not up to your kids. You got to do what's best for you. And then hopefully one day you can get wealthy enough to help other people and help make the world a little bit better place.
That's the goal. And I think a big philosophy of mine is I would love to get to the point where I could, annually contribute 25% of everything that I have, because if I get to the point that I would like to get to, 25%, I feel like, but I would donate it directly. I want to get my hands dirty. I don't want to be a check writer. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to get involved. Imagine being able to donate the last 40 years of my life to causes that matter to me. I'll still be doing businesses on the side, still have income coming in, but or to give it to my family, or to maybe even give it to myself, for time, for my family. So it's, the pursuit isn't just the pursuit of money. It's the pursuit of freedom. It's the pursuit of being able to do what you want to do, because, there's so many people out there, who are sitting at a job that they absolutely hate. Because they have to pay a bill. And then that means that, mom and dad come home and they both had a shitty day at work because they both hate their jobs, and they're swimming up to their eyeballs in debt. And, the kids see that. You might not think that your kids are old enough to understand, but I can tell you from a child, being a child myself not too long ago, I understand that stuff. I understood that. And honestly, I'm so, involved in this conversation about money because of all the ones that happened around me when I was young. Some were good, some were bad, and I'm so invested in never having those conversations. I don't want my 7 or 8 year old child to see, me and my wife stressed about how to keep the lights on or who's going to pay for groceries. It's just an unfortunate reality in this country. And, I feel like if I can change one person at a time, hopefully they take what I taught them. They change someone's life, and it just keeps on going. And unfortunately, that's the best reach that I can have, besides tools like this where you can spread your message to a large group of people at one time. And of course, I'm always open to individual consultation, as well, to help digest someone's situations and help them reach their next goal.
Yeah, Josh, absolutely. GB Financial is a Facebook group on Facebook. Yeah, it's a Facebook group on Facebook.
Believe it or not, that's what it is.
Yeah, don't know how that happened. But he created this a few months ago, and he started just. It's got 70 people in it right now.
Yeah.
And people just like you don't know who's like paying attention to
Yeah.
what you're doing and who wants to be involved, and
Yeah.
you have like just giving people the platform and the space to talk about it
Yeah.
is so great. I mean, if you're listening and you want to join, it's just just GB Financial on Facebook,
GB
right?
Financial, yeah, GB Financial, yeah. I mean, and what's crazy about it is, people who weren't liking or commenting or participating are the ones who are messaging. Who are actually the ones, looking for the advice. They're there, they're watching, and I think all of us have a close relationship with our money. I just think that we all need to put a magnifying glass on it, be real with ourselves, and take the next step.
Yeah, and to the point where there's always people watching. Like there is always people watching you. So try and just try and be a good human being.
Yeah.
That's really why I do this podcast. I have a pretty big like I want to fix the world problem, and the world is so just destroyed and broken in so many ways. And there's a lot of good in the world too that unfortunately gets covered by a lot of the bad stuff. I mean, you can thank your media outlets for that.
Yeah, definitely.
But if we can all do our part, the world will be a better place, and people will be a lot happier. And I mean, we got pretty aggressive throughout this series. We're passionate about this stuff. This is stuff that is really important. And if you just listen, like you can take control of your life and you can be a happier person. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to come home on Friday and be like, fuck, we can't go out to dinner because I didn't get paid just yet.
Right.
Like that sucks. Like you're not. Maybe you're happy living that way. I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's. We're not trying to get aggressive to offend people. We're not trying to get aggressive to make anybody upset. It's just one of those things that it's serious and you should take it seriously. And once you start getting passionate about it, it's a hobby and it starts feeling good.
I'll also add that, I might offend you. If
yeah, I'm going to shoot you straight.
It's very possible that I might offend you, but if you're offended, it's, listen, what I'm doing is working. What you're doing is working. What tens of millions of people who are doing, who have followed, Dave Ramsey's plan as an example, listen, they might offend you, but they're probably right. I mean, if it offended you, you probably know what you did wrong. That's the only reason you really be offended.
Yeah.
Same thing, talking about money habits and talking about diet and exercise. If it's not okay to talk about your health, are you insecure about your health? Are you insecure about what you eat? Are you insecure about how you feel? And it's okay, but let's talk about it. You
gotta fix it. You can't just ignore the problem.
Yeah.
If I see one more ad of like gym, I'm gonna piss people off right now. But if I see one more like Gymshark or Athlete ad with an obese person as the model, like you can't promote that shit. Like that's so bad and so unhealthy. Like that's just like a health hazard. And it's unfortunate that like we're okaying that. And it's the same thing with debt and like being poor. Like we're making it okay. Like it shouldn't be. You should not want to be that way. You should want to be the best version of you that you can be.
And I'll clarify, Nick would treat that any person who was overweight or obese. I mean, look, the scale says I'm obese. So we mean it in the way that you're obviously hurting yourself. Your heart is working overtime.
Yeah. Thank you for making me not sound like a piece of shit.
Like it's not just like it has nothing to do with like your mental capability. It has everything to do. We're sure you're great people. We're sure that you love deeply. We're sure that you're great at many things, but you're killing yourself. Like one bag of Doritos at dinner time is not a health solution. And it happens. I mean, soda, gut rot. I mean, these things, we could just go on and on and on. But listen, like, be harsh with yourself. Like, if someone else needs to get harsh with you, you're too late to the party. I was the first one to call myself a fat piece of shit. I'm the first one to call myself out on not having enough money. I mean, I'm the first one. You
got to take ownership.
You really do. And once you take ownership, then people can hurt your feelings because I don't care. I don't give a shit. Someone says something to me. I mean, there's people who can hurt my feelings. If you care about them, of course. But, for the most part, like anything bad you can say about me, I'm probably aware of it. Mm-hmm. I'll probably agree with you, actually. And there's things that I'm working on now that I'm aware that I don't do well.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's true. I think that's what it boils down to.
And if any of that fitness talk caught your eye or caught your attention, I'm planning on doing another one of these series with Jake Losbernado. I don't know if you guys listened to, I think he was on the 7th or 8th episode with me. But we're going to do like a whole series on like fitness and different things like that to try and help people get more fit. The goal of this podcast is to try and help people become happier. And I very, very strongly believe, and a lot of people that are there with me agree, that financial and fitness go hand in hand. Yeah. And Jake has the 5 pillars. I'll let him get into that, but that pretty much wraps it up for this series. This was really fun. I hope this helped people.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and until the next one, take care.